So the big story out of the UK today is actually the story of Alfie Evans. And this is very similar to the case you'll remember of Charlie Gard. Charlie Gard was an 11-month-old baby who had a degenerative brain condition, and the British courts ruled that the hospital could trump his parents' wishes. Now, here's my question. Where is the American left in all of this? So the American right is saying, you got to save this kid's life. You got to do everything possible to save this kid's life. Where's the American left in all this? And the American left that suggests that abortion is fine because it's just a cluster of cells. But once the baby is born, it's no longer just a cluster of cells. Where are they for all of this? The American left that cheered. I remember there was a movie called John Q. It came out in 2002. It was a movie with Denzel Washington. And the movie was about a black kid who had an enlarged heart, and they didn't have the money to pay for his heart surgery. And so John Q took over the hospital with a gun and tried to hold the doctors hostage to perform the surgery on his son. Right? And this movie was praised to the skies by liberals because liberals said, this is what the American health system is like. Well, in this particular case, this is not about who's paying for what. The parents aren't asking the British government to pay for anything. In this particular case, you've got a father who is trying to remove his son from a hospital to save the son's life, and the American left is utterly silent. So when it comes to free market economics in the healthcare system in the United States, then they're very upset. But when it comes to actual bureaucratic murder happening in the UK, then the American left just goes completely silent, which says to me that this has a lot less to do with how they think the healthcare system should be run and a lot more to do with how they value human life. And that if the baby has some sort of degenerative brain condition, that this is a baby that is not deserving of life. You can see the short leap from here to the eugenics of the left in the early 20th century. It is not a long leap by any means whatsoever. It really is horrifying. And to show how horrifying it is, just remember, this week, the British royal family, Princess Kate and her husband, Prince Harry, they had a baby this week, and the entire nation of Britain celebrated. And this was a beautiful thing, of course. Imagine if, God forbid, one of the members of the royal family had a child like Alfie Evans. Do you really think the royal family would allow the hospital to kill the child in violation of the will of the parents? Do you really think that would happen? Or is there a class differentiation, even in a system where we pretend there is no class differentiation? Is there a difference between royal and rich in Britain and being poor and in the clutches of the National Health Service? The answer is, of course there is. Once the government gets to say what sort of care you deserve and what sort of care you must be provided, they also get to say what sort of care you don't deserve and what is best for the child. So there are folks who say this has nothing to do with nationalized health care because it isn't a question of rationing. But inherently, it is a question of how a ration system considers the value of human life, because they do have to make calls as to what is best for particular human lives. And they also have to decide whether they think a human life is worth living at a particular point. And they've decided this kid is suffering and that his suffering is not worth trying to preserve his life, which isn't their decision in the first place. It really is horrifying. It really is disgusting. And it's demonstrative of the difference in value held between the right and the left when it comes to saving human lives, even kids like Alfie Evans. It's devastating. It's devastating. This kid is the same age as my own kid. And the thought of a hospital trying to do this to me with regard to my own kid is so horrifying. I can't imagine a situation in which I would not bring a gun and try to break my kid out just because, I don't know what the hell the hospital has to tell a parent what is best interest for their child when it comes to trying to kill the child. Again, it's one thing to say that the kid should be that the kid should be allowed to get a treatment when the parents don't want the kid to get a treatment. It is another thing to say the kid should be deprived of life-saving support because the hospital thinks differently than the parents. Just unbelievable.